I'm Jim Check. You're watching Now Media. We're going to talk about solar today. I have with me Dan Goy from the Glenrosa Residents Association, and he's trying to out there. They're trying to put solar on, but the city of West Kelowna is actually asking you for a building permit to put solar on your roof.
Yeah, we actually we installed our solar in 2022, and at the time, we had to pay that included a $1,200 building permit that we were billed by the contractor. And later I found out that other jurisdictions, such as the city of Kelowna, the city of Vernon, the district of Summerland, they don't require a building permit. And what was kind of stood out for me, I'm an electrician by trade, and the solar installation is an electrical installation. There's no building per se involved in that.
There's not a lot of weight either.
The weight is negligible. Mm-hmm. And so I was kind of curious why there was a building permit. But anyway, we paid the building permit and carried on. And then as recently I was elected, I've been a member of the Glenrosa Residents Association for a couple of years now, and recently elected as president. We had passed a resolution proposing that the city of West Kelowna embrace solar power, particularly around their facilities and net metering. And one of the things that we brought forward when we made that proposal last year, and then again in front of the Committee of the Whole on May the 20th of this year, is the issue of the building permit and the added cost. And as far as we could see, what that really was about was a cash grab. We met with the other neighborhood associations who, on that particular point of the building permit, agreed with us that why is there this building permit and why is it so onerous? And so during the meeting, during the presentation that I made on behalf of the GRA to the council, raised the $1,200 permit that we paid personally for our house, and staff was scurrying about and eventually got to me the fact that the building permit for that solar was only $400.
So they triple charged you?
Well, it definitely stood out because I've got the receipt that says $1,200, and then I've got the staff document, the permit from the city of West Kelowna that obviously went to the contractor that put in the solar, and then I got that bill, and that was $1,200. And so why the discrepancy was not that the contractor ripped me off. It was the fact that because of the way that they request the building permit, and along with their fees, is that they have to have stamped and engineering drawings.
So you got to get an engineer involved?
Of course.
Oh my God.
Right? And of course, right? And of course that's what tripled the cost, right?
Yeah, of course.
And now, according to the contractor, those fees have just gone up. Engineering fees have just gone up.
So the weird thing though is City of Kelowna, because
West Kelowna. Oh, right.
No, City of Kelowna. I'm in Kelowna here, and I have solar on my roof.
Yes.
No building permit.
Correct.
No engineering.
Correct.
Because there's very little weight that's being added to the roof.
Yeah. In fact, a buddy of mine he formerly worked for Technical Safety BC. I think that's what it's called. And he said, Dan, he says, if you just do a search on Google, you cannot find a roof that's collapsed because of the weight of solar.
Well, I've watched the guy install mine, an older guy, your age likely. I think he hefted 3 panels up the ladder himself, like he carried them up, 3 panels. And I don't think he probably could have carried 4 if he could fit them in his mitt. But I mean, they're fairly light.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not much.
And then it's aluminum, like whatever you're mounting to, you mount these aluminum tracks.
Right.
And then you put the solar panels on top of these aluminum tracks. And it doesn't even penetrate the roof, really. They showed me how they're fastening to the roof, right? They're just barely go into the kind of like cleats kind of thing, right?
Right.
And so I have solar on my roof here in Kelowna, city of Kelowna. And I mean, they're all trying to get us to put solar on, right? I mean, that's kind of the thing. And you have net metering, I take it.
Yes,
Because that's through BC Electricity or whatever,
BC Hydro.
Fortis and Hydro, right? You're on BC Hydro.
We're on
over
BC
there, right?
Hydro, yeah.
And I'm on Fortis, but they both have the same thing. So they got net metering, which is great. But there is obviously an electrical permit that both pay because it's
Yes.
an electrical install, right? So you go and pay I think it's about $250 here for your permit.
190, I think I paid. in West
Something like that
Kelowna.
anyway. So it's fairly reasonable to do the permit, and then they come and inspect it or whatever, right? And I think Fortis wants to see some schematics or something like that too or whatever to make sure you're not causing a problem because they're obviously pushing power back their
Right.
way. But the building permit, I mean, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well,
You
it
know?
makes no sense at all.
So what's going on, City of West Kelowna? Like engineering, like why is like all these other jurisdictions in the area not charging it, and you are? And if that's what we want, I think we're trying to get people to put solar on their roofs.
Well, I know that some of the argument I've heard is it's a safety issue, and it's required by the building code. Well,
The same building code these guys adhere
correct.
to, right?
So from my perspective, clearly, it's a discretionary decision.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether that decision's made by staff, whether that decision's made by council, I'm yet to sort that out. But it's a discretionary decision. Otherwise, all the jurisdictions would be the same. They'd all require a
So
building permit.
is it a hindrance right now? You're part of the Glenrosa. You're the president of the Glenrosa Resident Association. Are a lot of people considering solar in Glenrosa, and is that thing kind of holding it up?
Well, it's certainly not an incentive.
No.
Right? I mean, they have the federal government with the Green Energy Homes program.
Yeah.
Right? They used to provide
Low interest loan.
They used to provide a $5,000 benefit, which now Hydro provides that, but it's a zero interest loan, so there's an incentive. And now BC Hydro, which is provincial jurisdiction, they're providing an incentive as well. And we have some jurisdictions which don't charge for a building permit. That's obviously an incentive. So it's obviously a de-incentive when you're looking at tacking it anywhere from $1,200 to $2,000 onto your installation bill.
Yeah, it just seems it's punitive.
It seems
for sure.
counterproductive, right? Counterintuitive.
Because right now BC Hydro, I believe, Fortis isn't offering. I don't think BC Hydro is offering the $5,000 grant. Right?
Correct.
And I think if you add battery, I think another $5,000 if you put a battery backup system. You
Yeah,
can check that. I'm pretty sure that that's what's going on. You can check it. And the Greener Homes program was up to $40,000 zero.
40,000 federal. Yeah.
Up to 40,000 zero interest loan. So basically, if you put on like a 10 kilowatt system, that basically your house needs or more, right? And because you also get net metering, so in the summer you're going to produce more, and then you build up these credits. And you don't want to put on more than you need either, because Fortis and BC Hydro don't like that too much. You don't want to become a commercial producer,
Right.
Because they'll change your rate on you.
They don't want you to become a power plant.
Yeah, they don't want you to become a commercial producer. They'll change your rate, but you're going to create more energy than you need in the summer, and then you can draw from that in the winter months.
Exactly.
Right? And it's a pretty cool system. I've had mine for a couple of years. How long have you had yours?
It'll be going on 2.5 years. Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty much
Maintenance
not much
free.
to do, nothing to do, right? Other than suck energy out of the sun.
Yeah.
And then obviously the city of West Kelowna is sucking the money out of your pocket.
Well, what's interesting is the.
I jest, but you should probably answer that question. Why in West Kelowna?
Well,
not in Kelowna?
and again, the actual permit itself, the actual building permit itself, was $400, and then the additional $800 was because the solar installation company had to get engineered drawings, stamped drawings for the roof. But the fact of the matter is that the house I'm in, 76 to 80, it's an AHOP home. Correct me if I'm wrong. They were all engineered, right?
No.
And,
Well, every house,
Well, of course.
You know what I mean? No.
And the I don't know what was there before the city of Kelowna.
Somebody's carving a piece off the fat.
Correct.
Somebody's taking a piece off,
Yeah.
right? Just taking a piece off, and the engineers loving it because it's probably such an easy thing to do, right? Just, you know what I mean? Everybody's just taking a little piece. And it's not fair if that's what they want. If it realistically, I'm going to reach out to the city of West Kelowna here, and we'll see why it's different here in Kelowna versus West Kelowna. And it's not really fair. either.
No,
right?
it's not. And I mean, the GRA has formally requested a meeting with staff to make this inquiry as well. What is, and I thought about this since we originally talked. When we put our above ground pool in, we put in solar panels on the roof for the above ground pool for the water, which was done by a contractor. No permit required.
Interesting.
So how does that make any sense?
I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer.
Because in fact, I'm thinking the solar panels for the water just might be heavier than the solar panels.
I would say so, right? Because if you're running water through the water, right, for sure, that would be a lot heavier because water is actually very heavy, right? Pick up a pail and find that out, right, in a hurry. And it just makes no sense. So I guess I will reach out to the city of West Kelowna, see if somebody wants to talk, one of the councillors or the mayor or one of the city staff. And then
like I said, what I've heard, the argument seems to be, well, adding all this weight, you want to make sure the house, that the roof doesn't collapse. Well,
maybe the physics are different in West Kelowna versus Kelowna, right? Because I thought we all kind of go with the BC building code.
Yeah.
I thought there was a BC building code.
There is a BC building code. There's one BC building code.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, if there's one BC building code, somebody's interpreting the code differently.
Correct. That's
right.
That's
because the one thing to charge, the city of Kelowna could say, okay, we're not going to charge for the permit, but they'd still have to do the engineering if it was a BC building code. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So but they don't do it here. So there's obviously, they wouldn't ignore the BC building code, you wouldn't think. And the same as Summerland, you said a bunch of other ones, right? So.
And potentially, now I'm just speculating here because I haven't had this. We haven't had the meeting yet, but in combination to a cash grab, is this also a liability issue?
Liability for who?
For the city.
Why? Because they.
So if they get somebody else to, if they get an engineering drawing that's stamped, are they in fact removing themselves or spreading out the liability if something does happen?
If there's nothing in the building code that requires it, then it doesn't matter, right? Do you know what I mean? Like that's a silly argument if they make that. So we'll find out. I mean, that's the cool thing. You put it on. You've had it a couple of years, and how's it been?
It's been excellent.
Yeah. And so, how many people do you think in your association are actually running solar on their roofs?
Well, I try to do a bike ride every day with my bike in Glenrosa.
Yeah.
And I spotted quite a few homes. I'd say at least 1 in 50, and we're talking well over 3,000 homes in Glenrosa. Yeah. The population's almost 7,000 people now.
Usually there's an infection, right? Because like one person does it
Correct.
in the neighborhood, and then the neighbors come around and say, "What do you do there?" And then you say, "Well, it does this, this, and this, because I think I did it first." And I think about 5 neighbors around me did it.
Well, that's interesting, and that's what the sales guy from the contractor said too. Is since we put our solar on, the house directly behind us has put solar on, and the house kitty corner to us has put solar on. Mm-hmm. So it's
because they say, "What's that?" And you tell them it's almost free. Like, I mean, and here's how it's almost free, people. Say your power bill is $200 a month.
Yeah.
And then you take that green energy loan, say for 20 grand or whatever it is. That's about the cost of the system, but for a 10 kilowatt system is about 20 grand. Once you get your grants and all that, right?
Yeah.
Your power bill is going to go almost down to zero. So you're going to trade your power bill for your payment. The payment's, I think, around $173. So you're getting a free system, really.
Yeah, the math works out almost exactly to that. And then after, I think it's 8 years?
Yeah, then you're making money.
Then you're just making money, right?
Making money.
I mean, right now, because we're a real power consumer, right? We've got, 7 TVs, 2 fridges.
7 TVs?
7 TVs.
What are you running a small cable outfit out there?
Anyway, and my son-in-law, he makes beer.
There you go.
So he's got a couple of beer fridges.
And then you need all those TVs for all the beer.
All that stuff, right? So, we're using a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And we've cut our power bill because on the equal billing payment prior to the solar, I think we were about $228 a month.
Yeah.
equal payment, right?
Yeah.
And we've cut our power bill at least 75%. At least
That's what I'm saying. You're trading your power bill for the payment, but it's actually paying for a system that will pay you.
Exactly. Because after 8 years, it's paid off.
Yeah, it pays you. And then the other thing, you're driving an electric car. You've been driving an electric car for a couple of years. You're charging it at home, I take it, right? So your gas station is literally at home.
At home.
You know what I mean? And that's what people don't get about electric vehicles either, is that, they say, oh, you're going to waste all your time charging. Literally, there's no time charging because you come home, you plug it in, and you walk into the house. Whereas you don't go to the gas station and spend 10 minutes there waiting in line. If you go to Costco and you want to try to save some money on gas, you can be like there for a half hour at least, right?
We spend, we only use our electric car. We have a Chevrolet Bolt, and we only use that in the Okanagan exclusively. And typically, daily we're into West Kelowna.
Yeah.
Weekly we might be into Kelowna, and a full charge, we'll go 10 days without charging it again, and we just charge it at night. Just plug it in at night. Works well. Yeah.
Crazy, eh?
It is. Yeah.
No, it's and I've been doing it for a couple of years as well. The people, like a lot of people, obviously there's a lot of myths. I don't want to get into too much, but they think, one, you can't drive them out of town. I drive mine in Calgary and Vancouver all the time. One, they light on fire and all these other crazy things. And the maintenance is, the coolest thing is the maintenance zero, right? So the maintenance on the solar panels, zero. Maybe you want to go up there and wash them, I guess. I don't know. But zero. Because there's nothing to them. There's no moving parts. There's no nothing, right? And you're an electrician, and it's electrons, right? So.
Well, what's fascinating is how much solar they have in Mexico.
Yeah.
We're in a small. We spend our winters in Mexico.
Yeah.
We're in adjacent to a small village, and then a very small town, San Blas, and everything has got solar on it. Yeah. Everything.
Well, the cool thing about solar is that almost anywhere in the world, because you can't go build a dam anywhere because you need water, right? If you want to do hydro, you got to have water, and then you got to, flood an area and all that kind of stuff, right? Oil and gas, you got to build a plant, and and there's a lot of infrastructure costs that go into lots of other forms of energy. But solar is basically, you could do that in the middle of a desert in Africa, or the middle of a desert in Mexico, or right here in West Kelowna.
Well, as I was telling council, Belarus has got 6 solar power plants. Wow. When I'm thinking sunshine, honestly, Belarus is not what first comes to mind.
No. Have you ever seen Tony Seba? Tony Seba from Rethink X.
Okay, yeah.
If nobody knows who he is, go look him up there. And he said solar works anywhere in the world, even Alaska, and it's based on battery. So the less sunshine, the more battery, and it's a U curve. So the more sunshine, the less battery, right? So if you're in, Mexico, obviously you can use a lot less battery backup. If you're in Alaska, you need more battery, right? So solar coupled with battery, but the battery here, I wouldn't, suggest people get a battery because this battery here is BC Hydro or Fortis, right? Because you're tied into the system. What you don't get though is if the power goes out, you're out too, though, right?
Well, there's solar installations, including power plants and net metering, everywhere in Canada, right? Everywhere, including the north. And if we look at Canada as regions, and what is I'll characterize as a AAA region for solar, is southwestern Saskatchewan, southeastern Alberta,
and
shock and surprise, the central and south Okanagan Valley. Yeah. We can generate as much solar here as you can generate in Nevada or Arizona.
Yeah. No, it's really good. And West Kelowna, if you don't have a bunch of pine trees hanging over your house,
you're on the west side.
That is the key. And if you look out the window here too, in our live shot there, at the west side, if where all those fires were, and just this is a message for the BC government, if you put a solar farm out there on that side, 1, you get rid of the wildfire threat. 2, you create so much energy because that whole west side of the mountain there is just like a solar farm waiting for somebody to invest in.
Well, how I summarized the presentation to council is that West Kelowna has the potential to be a solar powerhouse in
it could power the valley.
Yeah,
it could power the valley. You heard that first here. with Dan and Jim, right? So if you want to send your investment dollars in. But anyway, solar is a good thing. I know I follow quite a few people on this, and I'm a big fan of solar and EVs, but I'm also a big fan of people having choice. So you decide what you want to do, right? Like, I don't think mandating anybody to do anything
Correct.
makes a lot of sense. But where solar really becomes super important is solar is like, like if you think of, you're an electrician, you can help me with this. You got the Site C dam that sends energy out, right? Large lines of sending energy out. And then as we get out to the houses, you get thin fingers of power, right? But you're distributing power from a central source into the, but where solar helps is actually, they're starting this in Texas now. When they have like a high draw, they're actually going to draw back from people's batteries and from cars and everything. So if you're plugged into the grid, they can pull power from your car, they can pull power from your battery backup and all that kind of stuff. So they don't need to invest as much in infrastructure because they can actually pull. Think of every car, EV, as basically a backup, a store of energy, because they store energy. That's what your car does. It stores energy. And no different if you have battery backup at home too. It's a storehouse of energy. So this is being tested in Texas right now. So less infrastructure required, and then just relying on lots of energy everywhere. And the whole world's about energy.
Yeah.
It's all about energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. That was exciting. Hey, and then we're going to get the city of West Kelowna here, and we'll see if we can get that changed for you. I doubt if you're going to get your money back, though.
No, that's not going to happen.
But if you can get it fixed for other people, that'll be great, right?
Yeah, it would
and
be
then,
terrific. Yeah.
And then again, encouraging people to look at it. And that Greener Homes program, I think that's still running.
That's
right?
still running.
The Greener Homes program. And the city of Kelowna also has another thing. They have this energy audit as well. I don't know if you've ever seen that. They actually, you can kind of like, and it's free. So you can do an energy audit of your home. And that's also for like some of the biggest losses for energy is, like if you have bad insulation, poor windows.
Poor windows, yeah.
Because, like a lot of your energy costs is a lot of wasted energy, right? So, so you can do that free energy audit here in the city of Kelowna. And you can also get free, no building permit here in Kelowna. So maybe you should just move to this side.
The house isn't moving.
There you go. I'm sure we'll get this fixed. I'm sure they're going to have a tough time trying to explain it anyway. So thank you for coming in, Dan.
You're very welcome.
And best thing to do in these kind of situations is raise your voice and see what happens, right? So that's why you're here.
That's why we're here.
And we do thank you for watching Now Media.
We don't just report the news. We live here too. We're your neighbors, bringing you stories that matter to all of us. No government funding, no outside influence. Kelowna Now, local, independent. News you can trust.